A recent proposal to raise pay for Idaho legislators would make Idaho the highest paid part-time legislature in the nation. This move was championed by House and Senate leadership and supposedly reflects the, quote, demands of legislators. But this proposal would increase legislator pay by up to 43%. This would be in addition to generous healthcare benefits, retirement plans, and support funding. There is even discussion about increasing the number of staff supporting the legislative branch. Some argue that these enhancements are necessary to ensure the legislature is properly equipped to challenge the unelected bureaucracy, but people forget how this unelected bureaucracy came about. The legislature was instrumental in growing the administrative state, voting in favor of growing executive branch staff and funding on the regular. The truth is, it is a bad idea to fight big government with bigger government. Instead, conservatives should advocate for a far more modest increase for legislators while shifting staff from the executive to the legislative branch. So on this week's episode of Fiscal Fridays, we dive into legislator pay and how the state should move forward with this proposal. Last week, legislators lobbied for a substantial pay increase before the Citizens Committee on Legislative Compensation. This committee is a special body of Idaho residents charged with the task of deciding how much legislators should get paid. This committee sends a report with recommendations to the Idaho Secretary of State and the Controller. The legislature may vote to reject the report, but if they don't take action, the raise goes into effect as the committee recommended. House and Senate leaders penned a letter to the committee that outlined their argument for a substantial increase to legislator pay, up to 43% increase for those near the Boise area. For those within 50 miles of Boise, the gross income would grow from $26,425 in salary plus per diem to a $37,801 salary. Mind you, this is only for 3 months of full-time work. For those outside of the 50-mile radius of the capital, the minimum increase in pay is still 32%. This increase would give Idaho the highest paid part-time legislature in the nation. Some of the highest paid legislators in the nation are from New York and California, with salaries of $142,000 and $128,000 per year respectively. Most conservatives and many Idaho newcomers would agree that these are some of the worst governed states in the nation. More money doesn't necessarily attract better talent in this case, nor does it necessarily lead to making a legislature more conservative. Currently, among part-time legislatures, Idaho's legislative salary ranks just above the national average. The leadership's letter made the flaw of only looking at take-home pay, not the full salary package that legislators receive. Legislators are eligible for generous retirement benefits through the Public Employee Retirement System of Idaho, or PERSI for short. They also receive very low-cost health insurance as state employees. Legislators can get a high-deductible plan for as low as $142 per year. If someone were to try to get a comparable plan in the private market, it would run them between $3,300 and $9,500 per year. Without this comparison of benefits and gross income, any comparison to the average Idahoan is not realistic. So what is the path forward on legislative pay? As conservatives, a more modest approach is in order. Increases to legislator pay should be commensurate with those of other constitutional officers, while also taking into consideration the differences between these roles. Idaho's legislators shouldn't be asking for a 43% increase for several reasons, beyond the fact that it is simply unreasonable. One reason is that it sets a bad precedent for when state agencies ask for their own raise this year. The increase averages 5% over the last 20 years, but seeing the legislature get such a large increase this year would leave the bureaucracy wanting for more. Another point is that legislators are asking for a substantial pay increase for themselves without thinking about their constituency. Legislators failed to repeal the grocery tax and reduce the overall size and cost of government for years. Taxpayers are already struggling, yet little relief has been offered. By way of staff support, Idaho ranks last in staff per legislator among western states. Rather than simply adding more bodies to the legislative branch to even the playing field with the governor, perhaps the legislature should repurpose the 8 positions in the Office of Performance Evaluation or redirect some of the 1,100 full-time positions that were added to the executive branch in the last 4 years alone. In short, the Citizens Committee on Legislative Compensation should reject leadership's proposal for a 43% raise for lawmakers in favor of more modest changes. If right-sizing the balance of power is the goal, growth is not the only solution. Cuts are key to success in reining in the bureaucracy. The only reason why the legislature is struggling to keep up with the administrative state is because they allowed it to run away from them. It's time to put constituents first. Thank you for taking the time to watch this week's episode of Fiscal Fridays. If you enjoy our videos, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. If you would like to get more content from the Idaho Freedom Foundation, including Fred Birnbaum's companion article for this week's episode, please be sure to visit idahofreedom.org. Finally, if the legislature wants a raise, where could they make cuts to find the funds? Be sure to request your free copy of our 2024 pork report to learn where they could start. Go to idahofreedom.org/24pork to sign up.